What's going on, Bottom Line viewers? It's Mitch here with the full cast of Bottom Line panelists. We have AC back in the fold, the Eagles fan. We have Dilly Vanilli, the Cowboys, which is where we're going to start here today. And also Kevin Olenek, ready for some hot takes once again. So we're here to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, America's team. Are the Cowboys a team that's going to bounce back after sort of a down year and bounce back to their way to the playoffs? Or are they going to be a team that sort of is around the same as last year? Or are they going to take a step back even from what was last year? There's a lot of questions to be answered in Dallas. They lost a few key pieces to their team in Dez Bryant, Jason Witten. The Clapper is still their coach. So we have a lot of questions to answer. But let's start off with the Cowboy fan himself, Dilly Vanilli, on his thoughts on his team, the Cowboys.
Thank you, Mitch. All right, so we got the Dallas Cowboys here. Of course, me being as a fan, last season was a huge disappointment. Coming in, I thought, we saw what 2016 had to offer. I was looking for some good things, and then there was just a whole bunch of drama going on with Ezekiel Elliott. What was he going to bring? When was the suspension going to happen? And once the suspension did happen, the whole team kind of just collapsed, particularly Dak, because he did not have a good 6-game stretch. He had a terrible 6-game stretch, and it pretty much ruined the season, giving us a 9-7 finish. This season, I know it's going to be a little bit difficult. We have a lot of people leaving. Dez is gone. Jason Witten retired. But I feel like the new faces of the Cowboys are going to have to try to step up to make this team improve from 2017. Offensively, I think the weakest thing that we have on our entire team is our receivers. We got people that haven't either proved themselves yet or haven't shown up in the last year or so. We got Allen Hurns, who I think is going to be a good piece, but again, we have to see what he does in the Dallas system. Other than that, Terrence Williams, who I've ever since 2016 never been the biggest fan of. We got Deontay Thompson, who I like, but he's not the greatest. I do like our third-round pick, Michael Gallup. I think he can be a standout, but again, we have to wait and see how that works. Just a lot of unproven guys. Cole Beasley's still there. He's probably the most experienced receiver that we have. And even then, he had a very disappointing 2017. So we have to see how he works with Dak and whatnot to see how that goes. Offensive line, still very, very good. Connor Williams, great addition, in my opinion, in the second round. Then we go to the tight end position, which is still kind of weak. But we did get Dalton Schultz, so I like that as well. Dak and Zeke, Dalton Schultz.
Who?
Yeah, because you still are our Dallas Gobert guy. Yeah, Dak and Zeke, though, they're back. The tandem's back. I think Dak obviously works the best with Zeke. When he's not on the field, it shows the weaknesses of Dak Prescott. But now with Zeke there, he can be the dynamic playmaker and make those explosive plays to get the Cowboys some touchdowns that they were missing in 2017. Defensively, I think the defensive line is really, really solid. D-Law's there for at least one more season. Hopefully they can sign him to a contract, but at least for this season in particular, he'll still be there. He showed what he had in 2017. Got him here in 2018. Tyrone Crawford. They messed him up in his Madden picture, but he's still very good. Malik Collins is there. Good stuff. Leighton Vander Esch as the linebacker coming in from our first-round pick. I like a lot. Jalen Smith, Sean Lee, of course, veteran guy right there. In the secondary, I actually think is pretty good. I know it's a lot of younger talent, but I think they're getting more experience. Byron Jones is moving from safety to cornerback, which is pretty interesting to me. And I like Xavier Woods. They're going to start him at strong safety. Jeff Heath, who I think is garbage. Awuzie, who was pretty underrated last year, all things considered. And then Anthony Brown, who has been up and down, but Jordan Lewis is backing him up. So I think there's a lot of good talent for the Cowboys personally. The receivers, like I said, is the weakest part of this offense. We have to see how Dak can work with that system in 2018, but I have high hopes for this team. My personal record is 10-6. I do have them in the wild card as the 6th seed, and the reason I have that is an explanation. I have 3 teams and the 10-6 record for the 6th seed, but due to tiebreakers and conference record, I had the Cowboys at an 8-4 conference record, and the other 2 teams had a 7-5 conference record. So that's my explanation for why they're the 6th seed and not the other 2 teams, which are the 49ers and a team we'll talk about in the NFC North. So, yeah, some good production here. I think this team can at least make a chance, obviously, for the wild card.
So if they're 8-4 though in the conference, what's their division record?
The division record, I think it was 4-2. Yeah.
And they don't win the division?
They don't win the division. No, I have the Eagles.
And they're 4-2 in the division and don't. So
4 in the,
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right. Let's see what probably somebody that's on the opposite side of the fence. Let's hear from the Seahawks fan because Dilly, he did rip apart his Seahawks. So let's allow Kevole to talk about the Cowboys.
You lost Des Bryant, which I don't think is a huge loss. I think is actually a good thing. It's a good thing you lost Des Bryant. You should have Ezekiel Elliott for the entire season. I think he's one of the best running backs in the league. You have a pretty solid defense, actually. I think you got DeMarcus Lawrence, Tyrone Crawford. You didn't talk about Taco, but Taco will be good. I think your linebacking core with Sean Lee, Jalen Smith, and Van Der Esch will be strong. Secondary, I guess, a little bit questionable. I mean, you got the New Day guy there, Xavier Woods at strong safety. I think on your offensive line, especially on the tackle side, I think is pretty good. But at the end of the day, this becomes the issue with the Dallas Cowboys. And it's the weakness on this team is not what they put on the field. It's what's sitting in the sideline and is what's sitting in the press box. I just do not believe in Jason Garrett as a coach. I think that when the chips are down and when the game is on the line, he somehow finds a way, that team finds a way to not win. I feel like Jason Garrett has been coaching not to win, coaching not to lose as opposed to win. And I feel, quite honestly, that Jerry Jones continues to be an anchor to the Dallas Cowboys. Again, this guy is in front talking about, and we're not going to get into the specific issue, but the very fact that he has to step in front of his team to talk about if the team is going to stand or not in the national anthem. Jerry Jones is continuously insistent to be the front and the face of the Dallas Cowboys, and it is an anchor. It hasn't allowed an actual football knowledgeable guy to take this team to where I think it obviously wants to go. He's in the way. I have the Dallas Cowboys in second place, but I'll be honest, I could see them finishing in third. In comparison, we'll talk about a couple of other teams that I think could potentially pass them, but I don't have the Dallas Cowboys actually in the playoffs. I have them as an 8-8 team, and I think probably talent-wise, it's comparable to a lot of other teams that we'll have in the playoffs. But I think at the end of the day, coaching does play a huge factor in this. And I think in comparison to who I have in my wild card competition, definitely the weakest coach is in Dallas. So I have Dallas at 8-8.
All right, interesting. So sort of two different takes. One guy has them in the playoffs, one guy doesn't. Just missing. AC, what do you think of the Cowboys this year?
Well, I actually believe they're going to be 8-8, and I think that's even being generous because I look at it and there's a team that we're going to talk about, not my team, that I do think everyone's picking to be fourth, but I do think are one of my dark horse teams because I actually think that team, being the Redskins, actually has more talent and has better structure to win next year more than. But we'll get into that later. So I'm going 8-8. My thing with Dallas is when they went 13-3, yes, Zeke was running the ball fantastic, which opened up for Dak. And also you have to think, who was Dak's number one guy most of the time? Jason Witten, which helped him. And I think, being an Eagles fan, watching all those Cowboys-Eagles games, Jason Witten won a majority of those games with big, big catches, either to ice games or to continue drives. I'm going to start on their defensive side of the ball. I agree they do have some talent, but if you look at when they were 13-3, they had way more talent than they do now. Obviously, you could say D-Law is unbelievable. I think one of the better defensive ends in the league, but we've seen just because you have one unbelievable all-pro defensive end doesn't mean a lot if you don't have a full squad on the defensive side. I just look at the defense that they had that 13-3 year. Yes, their offense was unbelievable, but that defense kept them in tons and tons of games. And we've said it before, you know, getting rid of Barry Church and Wilcox, I think, was the death of that team and that defense, because those two safeties, being Eagles fan, watching them, they always played unbelievable against the Eagles. And I think that was a huge miss for them to let those guys walk. I know Church got a lot of money, Wilcox a little bit, but you still move on. And now I look at their defensive backs. Yeah, we all can say Byron Jones moving. He's an athletic player, but we've never really seen him a full season be, you know, all pro or even a top 15 or even top 20 corner in this league. Awuzie, I don't mind, but still, like, he's a guy that, you know, maybe they're just young last year. Just when you just look at that depth, I do like their linebackers. I just don't think this defense is going to save them like they did when they went 13-3. Because if you think about it, how much better can this offense, I'm just going to ask with you guys, how much better can this offense be from that 13-3 season? Like,
I don't think they will be better.
No, but is the bar, like, is that the best that they can be?
In terms of this talent on the field?
Like, is that the best they can hope for? Is that 13-3?
With this current roster, I would say probably, yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, that's what I'm saying. So that's the best. And obviously that doesn't happen. I do think Zeke's going to be able to run the ball somewhat, but I think teams have kind of cued in on what Dak doesn't do well. You know what I mean? They stack the box, and he was inaccurate in some times when, you know, you have to replace the ball where the blitz is, and a couple times he just didn't do that well. This receiving core is the weakest it's been. Like, yeah, Tavon Austin, but Tavon Austin is more of a return guy, and I don't think Jason Garrett is smart enough to put him in position to get the ball on screens and whatnot. Cole Beasley fell off last year, and then their tight end position, like I went to, Jeff Swaim and Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz, Rico Gathers, like, that's not going to replace the production of Jason Witten. And not that Jason Witten, as he got older, was slower, but his hands were still there, and that was what the key was. And I do think Dez still, even though he didn't get, you know, he didn't play great and he had some drops and stuff, he still was Dez Bryant and made enough good catches. So all in all, I think 8-8 is being generous, because I do think this team has talent, but I do agree with what Kevin said with the coaching, ownership, the way this team was kind of built. They're kind of, it seems like they're scrambling a bit. And I just don't think, I think Zeke can still rush for 1,000 yards, but just because he rushes for 1,000 yards, it doesn't mean they win more than 8 games. I think Dak's going to have to make some throw, and I think I've heard it on NFL Network. They were saying, like, this is the season we're going to find out if Dak Prescott is the quarterback of the future, or are they going to have to start moving on? I think they might have to go. They might have to move on, but 8-8, I think, is being generous. But we'll see.
Just an interesting little stat to back up my Jason Garrett comment. Third quarter points, which is pretty much you come out of the half and then you're making your adjustments. Dallas was 29th, in near the bottom of the league in third quarter points last year.
Oh.
And at home, since 2015, they're 11-13 at home.
Yeah,
which is interesting, because you can't do that. If you want to be a top tier, you have to win at home.
Yeah, that is something with the Cowboys I never quite understand. Why is their home record so bad? But I mean, they always have, like, all these fans traveling from other places to come there to watch their team. Maybe that's a reason. But okay, so you guys covered a lot, but my prediction is going to be 8-8 as well for the Cowboys. I have them finishing second in the NFC East. And I don't actually think the NFC East is as strong as other people think it is. I think the 3 other teams besides the Super Bowl champions are sort of average teams. Maybe one of them can take the step up, like the Cowboys, the Giants, or the Redskins. Take that step up and potentially contend for the wild card position. But for the Cowboys, I just see them as a middling team. They'll win some games they shouldn't win, and they'll lose some games they should win. And I like what they did on the offensive line this offseason. They definitely got it stronger. They got it to where it was. Connor Williams was a nice pick in the draft. They signed Cameron Fleming, who I thought was very solid for the Patriots. He'll be a backup there at tackle, so whenever Tyron Smith gets hurt, that will definitely be a replacement value there. At receiver, we talked about the Dez Bryant thing. I don't know if Dez Bryant is a huge loss, but he's a loss nonetheless, just because he was a go-to sort of guy, even in just in terms of assignment. Like, they would throw a lot of passes to him. So, like, who's going to take that spot and who's going to be that guy? I think Alan Hearns can do a similar job to, at least in quality, of what Dez did last year. Like Dylan brought up, I think Cole Beasley will probably be their most consistent receiver. Tight end, I agree with Adam. Their tight end position is just not good. Running back, Zeke is back, so that definitely helps. He's explosive. He's a breakaway runner. He can make big plays. Behind him, it's sort of a question, is Rod Smith going to get some catches? I like Bo Scarborough to come in occasionally, but like, what's going to happen there if Zeke is tired or even injured or, maybe suspended? Who knows? Defensively, I like the defensive line. Irving obviously being whatever he is doing at the moment in time during the season. That does hurt because he is a very good pass rusher from the interior, and I think he was very disruptive last year. So when he's not on the football field, it definitely hurts our defensive line. But I think their defensive end position is very deep. Linebacker, I still want to see Jalen Smith prove himself as a good linebacker. He still needs to come back from that injury fully. And Sean Lee, whenever he's hurt, they really miss him. Whenever Sean Lee gets hurt, their defense seems to, their value on defensive football just goes way down. But I think their defensive coordinator, Rod Marinelli, is actually pretty good. He puts it together no matter who's on the football field. I think their defense will be in the middle of the league. And I think that's also sort of where their offense is going to be. That's why overall I just see them as an 8-8 team. And I don't see them going to the playoffs this season. Maybe if they make a couple of additions, which I thought they were going to do this offseason. But I guess they're too worried about the guys in-house that they have to sign, like DeMarcus Lawrence, which they still haven't gotten done for whatever reason. But I think the Cowboys need to actually stress probably next offseason to bring some more talent in because, yeah, you're drafting some good players, but you also need to help that infrastructure with some players from outside to make this team a good team, especially with the Eagles and all that and how good they are at this moment. So
I think a fair question also about the Cowboys, you brought up what they were supposed to do in the offseason.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that Earl Thomas ran up and said, pick me, but
and I'll say this, if Earl Thomas gets traded to the Cowboys for whatever reason, I think that instantly puts them up 1 or 2 wins. I think they're instantly like a 10-6 because he'll definitely change that defense.
Sure. But I also, in spite of that, I don't know if Dallas is a desired destination for NFL free agents right now. I think that I think that players are looking at what's happening in Dallas, and I think they feel it's too much of a distraction. And football is not necessarily the priority. Drama seems to be the priority in a lot of people's mind in Dallas. That's just a perception. And they would rather go to a place where you can actually play football.
And Kev, I think it's interesting you say that because I was listening to Jerick McKinnon talk about where he wanted to go in free agency. And I feel like players nowadays are really, really looking and studying hard about the teams and the coaching because he said, he knew the history of Kyle Shanahan and Mike Shanahan and running backs in that system and what he's going to do in that system and how he's going to catch and how he's going to run and how he's going to be that guy. And he really went in depth about like Kyle Shanahan's system and all that. So I feel like coaching, like you brought up earlier, might be a big thing. I don't know if many free agents are like, I want to play for Jason Garrett. Although he seems like a nice guy, I don't know if he's one of those coaches that will take your game to the next level or put you in a system to succeed.
Yeah. Dylan, we've kind of bashed your team here, so
I want to hear Dylan's response. He's been sitting there.
I was expecting the way it was. I've never been a fan of Jason Garrett, as I've expressed here on the channel before. In fact, after we went 5-6, I felt like we should have just lost those games because we weren't going to be a playoff team, and we should have gotten Jason Garrett fired when we had the opportunity to do so. Like Kevole loves to make fun of Jerry Jones. Again, never been a fan of the system, the higher up system. But in terms of what we've got on this team, what I'm hoping for is that we got to put away the drama, put all the way what Kev doesn't want to talk about, the anthem and whatnot, and focus on what's actually here in the football and focus on what the talent we do have. Because if we do get Earl Thomas, that's fantastic. I hope for it. But I can't focus on that until it actually happens. You know what I mean? I got to focus on what guys are going to be on the field right now. And I'm just hoping for some good production. Like you guys said, 8-8, but Either if you go with an 8-8, maybe there's a sneaky victory to coming out of there. I don't know. It's just the way it is. I see it. I see where you guys are coming from. I just have confidence in them getting another win or two.
Yeah, I have them at just looking at their schedule. They probably have like 7 difficult games, like very difficult games, and that's not including against the Giants or the Redskins. That's just like the other games. They play at Carolina week 1, Houston, Atlanta. They play New Orleans, Philly, Tennessee, and Jacksonville. So in my opinion, those are pretty difficult games that are out of division besides Philadelphia. So, I mean, it could go either way. Maybe they're 7-9, 8-8, 9-7, 10-6-ish team. I don't think they're much worse than 6-10 at any point. But it's going to be interesting. What do you guys think about the Cowboys this year? Leave it in the comments section below. You think they're a middle-of-the-road team, 8-8, like myself, Kevole, and AC think? Or do you think that they're going to take that next step from last year and just sneak into the playoffs as like a 6th seed, or maybe even potentially better at 10-6 or better? So let us know in the comments section below. Hit that like button and subscribe for more Bottom Line View. Peace out.